All right. Hey, everybody. People coming in, people coming in. What's up, Nina?
Hello.
Good to see you. Desiree, Sig, Walter, Dave. All right. Good to see you all.
Hmm. Good to see you.
We're getting more and more people jumping in here, everybody except our guest of honor. So, uh, I confirmed with her yesterday, so I'm sure she'll be here. I did send her a note. So, we'll just get started at the top of the hour. You guys know me. I like to get rolling right away. Uh, oh, can you not hear Walter? Walter cannot hear. Can others of you
No,
can hear, right?
no, no, I can hear. I just they don't stick in my ears very well.
Oh, okay. All right, fair enough.
So
Fair
if you
enough.
see me doing that, I'm pushing them in these little ears. So
All right, fair enough. I was like, okay, I'm like, oh no. But then I said, you can't hear me. You're like, no, I can hear you. I'm like, wait, okay, so you can clearly hear me.
no, yeah, yes.
All right. Just letting a few more folks in. As I mentioned, Chris is not here yet, but I did confirm with her yesterday. I sent her a note a few minutes ago. So if she's not here by the time we are reached that point, we'll have some great conversation ourselves. So I fully expect her to be here. But just a couple of housekeeping things. A reminder that this is being recorded. So, so I guess Jen, watch your mouth a little bit. I know she likes to swear a lot at these sort of things. That's a joke from me. She's like, shut up, Steve. I'll move on. You guys should have gotten the email as well. If you're not getting my weekly emails, make sure you let me know. You're all on the list, I believe. But if anything's going on, please let me know on that deal. But we are into season two. As I mentioned, everybody who was part of season one is getting November, the three sessions that we have in November, just as part of that, just kind of continue that on. If you haven't renewed, that's perfectly fine, but we'll not include you on the December communications and the December sessions going forward. Reminder, we got a couple other sessions yet this month. So Thursday is going to be kind of, there's some demand for more of a networking, get to know each other, brainstorm, talk about what sessions we want coming up. So on Thursday at noon, that's going to be that session, noon Central Time. That's where we're going to just talk about getting to know each other and what do we want to see more of or less of, formats that we like. That's more of a community conversation. And then next Monday at 3 p.m. Central, that's when we will have Eric Termundi join us. And if you don't know Eric, he's a phenomenal speaker. Check out his website. But he's going to be joining us for an hour and just kind of talk about his journey and what he's learned along the way. And it'll just be an open session of conversation, Q&A. I see Christa has now joined us, so that's good, just in time. Krista, welcome.
Hi, I'm just trying to turn my camera on. Of course, the
I know it's the
technology is
first
like
time you've ever
fire.
done Zoom, so we'll have a little patience for you.
Exactly, exactly. This is very difficult technology, so new.
Well, you're figuring that out. I just got a quick little couple for folks that don't know who you are. We kind of get right into the business here, but I'll give a quick little background of what at least I know about Krista. And then, as you guys know, kind of the format of this, Chris and I will have a conversation for a while, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. So we'll leave as much time as possible for that. But we're lucky enough to have Krista for a couple of hours today, which is huge. Her time is incredibly valuable. This is a gift and I don't take this lightly. So, Krista, I really do appreciate your time. But I know she's a Canadian. I know she started her life as an elementary school teacher. So that's an interesting journey. I'm sure all kinds of stories there. Eventually, she started working for a speaker bureau, became a very successful bureau rep and agent there. That led her to actually launching C Agency, which is a speaker management company, which she still is involved with there. And then she also recently started Bookable Speakers, which is a company, does a number of different things. She hosts events. I've been to one of those events in Dallas, where it's a speaker community, but also an educational piece, networking piece. And then she wrote a book with the similar name, Become a Bookable Speaker. So I know that's just a fraction of all you've done in your world. But Krista, we are super excited that you would join us today. So officially welcome.
Oh, wow, that was an excellent, excellent intro. I think you hit all the top line stuff, all the top line stuff. I'm impressed.
Good. Well, I'm sure other stuff will come out kind of as we go, but it's so good to see you. So you and I we'll have a chat. I'll keep an eye on the chat here. If there's anything pressing, guys, put your questions in there. Otherwise, we will have an opportunity to just open it up for Q&A in a little bit as well. But Christa, I'd love to just kind of pick your brain right away. You know me from Bookable, but these folks know me. I'm like, quit screwing around with all the pleasantries. Let's just get right into business. So I will mention that I'll put the Bookable Speakers website link in the chat. I'll also put Krista's LinkedIn profile in the chat if that's okay, Christa.
Yeah, of course.
And then, folks, if you're feeling like you just want to connect or find out more, you can do that. So I'll do that in a little bit once we get everybody here. But I would just love to start a little bit, Krista, by just kind of making sure you're aware of the group. It's a pretty eclectic, diverse group. Some are on here. There's another 20 or 30 or so that are part of our community that'll be watching this on video. But some are keynoters or aspiring keynoters. Some are trainers. Some are, different. There's sort of a different thing, a different levels, I guess, or different progress in our career. Some of us are just starting out, some of us are on the way, some of us are stuck, some of us, so all of those things. But that's generally, it's people that are longing to, I guess, make more money and get booked more, whether that's keynoting or training. So I guess the first question I would have for you is really just, this may be a big question. I could ease into this a little bit, but I guess, in all of your history of seeing all of these speakers, working with all these speakers, booking speakers for more than, I forget, $15 million or something, whatever you've booked speakers for, like what are the common traits, I guess, of speakers that you've seen make it, so to speak? Like you see all these speakers coming in with chasing the dream, wanting to make money, wanting this to be their full-time gig, wanting to get paid well, and some make it and some don't. Are there common characteristics of those that make it?
Well, that is a loaded question, a very big question.
I'll just drink coffee for the next hour. You can answer.
Exactly. I know. I'm like, why don't you set me up for the biggest thing? And so let me unpack a few things in there. So first of all, can we define what makes it and what doesn't, right? Like, I think it's important to note that, let's just say there's, what is that? That's not a line graph. That's a curve. What do you call it? Bell graph. Bell curve. Right. Not math. I'm a language equivalent. But on the bell curve, there's like, where would you place yourself on the bell curve of success? Are you at the very tippy top, pointed, what people would think making it or not making it, and at the other end making it, or are you somewhere in the middle? And I think that's really important to just look at for yourself. Where would you place yourself on that bell curve? Where would you place the most successful speaker? First of all, kind of look at that tippy top of the bell curve. Are they there? Or maybe it's the most successful speaker to someone that you look up to, or someone in your price range, or someone in your niche, or someone in your topic area, or specialties, or in your demographic, whatever it is. They might be in the messy middle. They might be at the little end of it because they have found success for themselves as a speaker in the way that they wanted to find success. There are some people that train their whole lives or consult their whole lives, or being a success isn't necessarily the biggest stages or the biggest bookings or the biggest fee or the biggest money. It is doing, I think, what you're called to do, and to be very clear about what it is that your pull motivation is. I see there being two motivations. Tony Robbins, he was the first one I heard it from, not in person. I'm not that big. I heard it on a podcast. So he was talking about the push motivation and the pull motivation. And for me, when I started in this industry in 1997, I've seen a lot since then. And the 10 years at the Speakers Bureau, it was very push motivation for me. It was very exhausting, very draining, very out of my normal skill set. I moved from Canada, as Steve said. I was an elementary music teacher in Canada. We moved to Texas. I have a brother and sister-in-law here. I didn't even know what the speaking industry was. I just knew I could get a work visa doing it. So I worked for my sister-in-law doing that. And I was dumped into 100% commission sales job in a foreign country. I didn't know I didn't know a lot of the icons. I knew the big politicians and the big sports icons, but you didn't know the little ones, right? And so I didn't know just the ethos of the culture of the America versus Canada. It was very, very tough. It was very, very stressful. I burned out very quickly because this was a push motivation. I was pushing this rock uphill out of real fear, I had to support a family on 100% commission, single income for my whole career, really. But what I found, and this is, I'll get here eventually, so I might as well now, but what I found was something that I call my obvious advantage. And that's what I look at for speakers too, what their obvious advantage is. And one of my obvious advantages, hindsight's 2020, as they say, but I look back on this and I see that the teacher in me never died. It was always there. And the creativity, because I'm an artist by heart, I'm a musician and I've done stand-up, I've done improv, I've always been a singer, I've always done the creative stuff. And when I look back, I did that very thing to sell speakers. What I did was, without even knowing it, I had to figure out a way to match an event planner with a speaker. And usually the speaker's materials didn't match what the event planner was looking for. So I reverse engineered all these materials into what the planner was wanting. And like for, every speaker in the proposal. So it worked. It was my creative way at sales. And I was top producer 8 of my 10 years at this crazy speakers bureau. And I pulled that with me onto the representation side of the business. And I realized that that's the through line for me, is creativity and finding a way through things and making things my own in whatever I do. So that was some of my obvious advantage stuff. So I turn that back on speakers when I work with them and consult with them. I'll ask a question. I'll say, don't ignore the obvious. So really, we're all ignoring the obvious in some ways. So my obvious was that I was a creative, I was a teacher, I was able to see things in a different way than maybe the rest of the world did. And I think that's where speaker's superpower is. So whatever it is that you're called to do, be looking at your obvious advantage through that. So to answer your question, I think speakers who, now I need to say this through all of this. There is no formula, and anyone who tells you that there is lying, because there's a certain amount of lightning bolt, just getting struck by lightning to make it. But the speakers that I've worked with and the speakers that I've been able to have the most success with, as far as, number of bookings and fee, because that's the most measurable success really, are in 2025, 2026, they're the ones who are at the front and seeing where change is. Very adaptable. You have to know where the industry is going, and you have to know what planners, how they operate right now. So those are and I think you've always had to know that, but in the year 2000, there were 21,000 speakers in the industry, and now there's over 45,000. So it's you got to you're up against a huge wall of competition. So I would say the speakers that are going to quote unquote make it are the ones that niche down and are truly, truly very, very specific on what they do and who they are and what they deliver. And you have to make it so clear to planners. You always have, but I think that's just been cranked right up to 11. It's always been, let's make it clear. Let's, make a good video, make a good website, do all the things. But the ones who want to be the most kind of large scale success, you're throwing elbows, you're breaking noses at 15,000. There's a lot of speakers out there right now. So that being said, make it where you need to be. And if that's in one of the tippy parts, the first tippy part of the bell curve, that's okay, because you can actually succeed there without, killing yourself. Now, if you're in the 15,000 range, you got to get real specific, and there's ways to do it. Obviously, that's where I live, is in it's my speakers in the 10 to 30 range, $10,000 to $30,000 range. So I'm throwing elbows and breaking noses.
Well, one of the interesting things, I was talking to Eric Tremundi, who I'm sure you know, Christa, as a speaker, and I was talking to him about you just want to try to appeal to so many people, and what about this? Am I niche down here? People will think I don't do I don't do that. Well, the reality is, if they like you, they're going to ask you if you can do other things. Plus, the way that Eric said is, you don't need to book 6,000 events a year. You don't have the capacity to book every event that there is. All you need to do is find the 50 or whatever the number is that you want that will hire you for that year. So in the context of that, I mean, it sounds like you're saying, yeah, niche down, be really clear on who you are, what you do, what you deliver. So if they're looking for a specialist that meets you, you're the obvious one. So I guess the question is, from your perspective, how do we as speakers, some of us along the road a little bit, some of us newer, how do we niche down? How do we find our obvious advantage? Like, because once it's obvious, once we're doing it, it makes sense. But it's kind of hard to like filter through all of the experiences we've had, all the voices we've had, all the shoulds that we're supposed to do, all the ideas, all the formulas, and really like what is it for me? Like what would be your suggested process or approach to actually figuring out what our niche really is?
Well, that is an awesome question. So I have a whole framework for the obvious advantage, something I've been working on for quite some time now. I'm actually going to my website right now, which I'll drop in the chat.
You want to share your screen, or you just want to put a link in?
Yeah, I can share my screen. Sure. Hold on. Get ready for my big face on your screen. There it is.
Oh no! No!
So can you still see it?
Yeah.
All right on. Okay, so I have, because I kind of got so sick of working with speakers, I decided to come one. So now I've become a speaker, but no, I've the framework that I've built out that I use so successfully with speakers over the last 30 years is something I realized applies to everybody. And I found myself using it with like my friends and my family, and then I'd be talking to different people at different companies. I'm like, this works with everybody. And so it kind of makes sense for me to share it. So I've done a little bit of speaking on that now. So that's my website. And again, you know what? Let me just point out a couple things. So the cobbler's kid, do you know that thing? The cobbler's kid has no shoes.
Yeah.
So the cobbler's kid does have shoes, and this is my shoes. So I decided to make a website for myself that I knew would convert. So this maybe, I don't know, would this be a little teachable point maybe? But can I just walk through some of the things that I know are best practices that might be
your time, whatever you think would be most valuable to our folks, you have free reign. Cool.
All right, so keeping it really simple up here. So obviously there's a bit of a call to action. Get the #1 best-selling Amazon book from keynote speaker Christa Haberstock. See how I have keynote speaker right there? AI is wacky important right now. If you're ignoring AI, you might as well just quit. It is, you have to optimize for AI. Between 45 and 54% of planners are searching on AI for their keynote speakers. We just came from the International Association of Speakers Bureaus event, just came back on Sunday morning, which is why my voice is trash, because I'm always last to bed first up in the morning. But we had 3 planners on a panel, and one of them was like, I just go to ChatGPT and I just pick whichever one, which is freaking terrifying, because it doesn't know enough yet. So we have to dump as much about ourselves in this dirty river of AI results to make sure that there's enough clean water that they're getting results. So all of that to say, so everything you have should be AI optimized. I've got my obviously home, and then I've got Obvious Advantage, which is what I want people to know me for. It's actually obviousadvantage.com, or the Obvious Advantage, or obviousadvantage.com. I've got the About, Keynote, Consulting. What I want them to see, actually, and I need to change this a little bit because I'm going more towards keynoting, but for now, it's for speakers. So obviously I'm known for all of this, but also for speakers, and then the more stuff. And then check availability and fee has to be at the top, because that's what people are searching for. They say, give me availability and fee for a speaker. All of that, actionable frameworks. This is what meeting planners are looking for in 2025, 2026. They want action, and they want impact. They need ROI. Because their budgets are tight, they have to prove it to their C-level executives. So the impact, that word is real, tangible ROI. You have to focus on that. Again, this is a hook line right there. And this is a bit of a hero story. And then keynote in action. Again, it's packed with optimized words. The Obvious Advantage is a unique combination of strengths and talents, et cetera, et cetera. So again, this is kind of a big promise statement that you want to give. Again, some keywords, and then this is a big thing. This is kind of what I wanted to get to. So I think it's appropriately placed. Again, the ROI. So what you're going to find, and this is real-time information, by the way, like what I'm giving you, I know it from like this morning. I even realized a few things, but you have to make the decision-making process for them. You have to be the easy button for anyone taking this, because the average number of people now that are involved in making a decision for a speaker, it used to be 1 or 2, now it's 4 or 5. So you have to make this as obvious and seamless as possible and overcome every objection from jump. So what I've done here is make it as obvious to everybody who's looking this. It's like, oh, the cost of disengagement, there's money attached to that. Impact of employee turnover. So what are we looking at? We're looking at employee retention is a big thing. This is probably going to change in the next 3 months. Things are at total warp speed right now. Trust, we're in a trust recession right now. So I've focused on trust, employee turnover, and disengagement because they all cost money. So I'm pointing it back to, and this is Gallup poll research. So I'm looking at things that are totally tangible, totally ROI focused, impact the bottom line for people like the CEO signing the check. I'm looking at these things. A key quote so that someone can anchor on it. The key to growth is in what you're ignoring. So what are the stats? What are they based on? So this is Gallup poll organization. A lot of this is Gallup, but this is different studies that are out there. Of course, I'm using AI for this, but I have sourced all of it from Perplexity. So it's on a bunch of stuff. So, I mean, some of these are averages, but you can get this. I can't remember where I got this. It was a government website. What do you call the source was a government website. But again, so this is it's all tangible, but I have not memorized where it's from because I don't need to. So here's the framework. So this is kind of where I wanted to get to, what rabbit trailed me over there. So what I want you to kind of look at is the obvious advantage framework. So I have it in 4 different areas. So we have your obvious skill, the obvious trait, the obvious why, and then the obvious impact. So your obvious skill, let's just say if I was working with an Olympic speaker, what really led me to that don't ignore the obvious thing was a couple of speakers I worked with. One was okay. So back in like even late 90s, early 2000s, speakers would call themselves humorists, right? And they would be humorous speakers, and they call themselves humorists. Like, who even uses that word? But he was a humorous motivational speaker. And so I was repping him actually with a different speaker management company I worked for, Karen Harris. I worked for her for 2 years. Pretty good mentor to have. And I was actually at his house. I was with his wife, and he and his wife. And I said, well, why are you funny? And he said, well, I've done comedy. And I said, well, tell me more about your comedy background. And he said, well, I was Drew Carey's roommate and I learned a lot from him. I'm like, huh? And so then he said, oh yeah. And he tells me more stories that are just really interesting about, I think he mentioned Dennis Miller. And then he said, yeah, in fact, I drove Eddie Murphy to his audition for Saturday Night Live. And he told me this whole pep talk he gave him. And I'm like, are you out of your mind? Why are you not referencing this? This is such an obvious platform of credibility for you. Why would you ignore that? Don't ignore the obvious. I repped Olympians that are I talked to one this weekend. Olympians want to go away from their Olympic story so bad. It is unbelievable. They start getting some success with their Olympic story. Then they're like, you know what? I'm going to phase that out. And it's like, why would you do that? It's so obvious that your door, it kicks the door open for you. So it's your obvious skill or your obvious top line thing that you've accomplished that's going to kick the door open for you. So for me, like it or not, I'm a speaker expert. I'm an expert on speakers. And so for me, as a speaker, I'll never get away from that, nor should I. What I learned from repping speakers and booking speakers and branding and everything with speakers for 30 years is the obvious advantage framework. That's my platform of credibility. And it also gives me some kind of leg to stand on. Yeah, I know about speaking. I can get up on a platform, no problem, because I've been around speakers for 3 decades. So like it or not, you're known for something. And whatever you think you're known for that doesn't seem interesting to you, it probably is the most interesting thing about you. Steve, you're a perfect example. I know you remember this story.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd asked you why you went on safaris, and then you told me this unbelievable story about going to Rwanda for, it started this nonprofit. I'm like, and I remember I was sitting right here. I went, way to bury the lead, Steve. And it's so obvious that you are a humanitarian at heart, but you're an accidental humanitarian. Some normie that came out of the Midwest in his 30s, had never been out of the country. And you're like, I think I'll go work on the AIDS crisis in Rwanda. That's really weird. So what you did with that seemed totally normal to you. And that's a perfect example. So everybody has their thing. So don't ignore the obvious for yourself. And that's top line obvious skill. The trait behind that is what is your driver. It's your push versus your pull motivation I referenced before. So the trait that was in, I would say, so the trait, this comedian I was referencing, I would say the trait that pulled him to do comedy was his love for making people happy, honestly, like to see people full of joy and to lighten the room and to just be that spark in a situation. That was his, and that was his trait that led him to that. My humanitarian here, Doc Henley, pumping the water, his trait, and I won't get into him, but he's another accidental humanitarian who started a nonprofit aid organization that has brought clean water to almost 3 million people in almost 55 countries now. And it started, he's a bartender, tattooed.
Yeah, Chris, I know I'm cutting you off a little bit, but I want to make sure that your stories are so good. I mean, they're all people. I want to kind of really focus in on what can we do. And I know you're getting there, and I know I'm being really rude right now, but
Okay.
I just want to get into okay, so if people want to understand what their obvious advantages, can you just kind of walk through these 4 steps or whatever it is and kind of really, what do we do individually to try to find that?
So find your obvious skill, your obvious trait, your obvious why, and your obvious impact.
Sorry. No, I fear I've offended you, but I think I just want to make sure that we understand what are the steps. So how would we do that? Like, is it just like self-reflection? And is this sort of linear? Is it like first the skill and then the traits, or how do we act? What's the actual process of doing that versus, other than like being in a room with you and having you say, "Hey, idiot, this is what your obvious advantage is."
Well, Doc's trait is that he was being shot at, and so he jams the gas. And so what is that motivates you behind that? So for Bean, she has her obvious why is she's in a wheelchair and she wants to help people overcome disability. So that's her why. And then your obvious impact is your legacy. So what you do is you look at what you're doing, you figure out what the trait is that's behind it, you find out why you're doing it, and then you find what impact that is.
So do you think is it like best in like a community? Obviously, you've got bookable speakers. There's a place people can go to help discover that. But how do people do this on our own? Like, how do we as speakers that are just kind of out here floating a little bit, how do we do that if we can't figure it out on our own, if we haven't gotten there already?
I think that get buddying up and find somebody you could do that with. There's the obvious advantage framework, which is finding out, like, what I do. I ask people, what do you think Doc's obvious skill is? What do you think his obvious trait is after I tell his story? What do you think his obvious why and then his impact? And then I get them to turn to each other and do it. So you can do that in a buddy up partner situation. But yeah, doing it like with a consultant, do it at this community, do it with someone who knows you best. You can't read the label from inside the jar. So you've got to do it with someone else.
Yeah. Is that the kind of thing that maybe just asking your family, asking your friends, asking your fellow speakers, what do they see in you kind of?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I do apologize for that. I know. We
it was
normally
somewhere.
I've been with you the whole entire weekend, so I know you can kind of like we can get so much information, and I want to make sure I leave enough time for Q&A. So I do apologize. You can shoot me a hate email later. You mentioned the event planners. You said it's changing all the time and keeping up with how event planners are making decisions now and that sort of thing. Like, where are we right now? Like, how are event planners making decisions? How do they want to be outreached to? Obviously, they can go to a bureau, but like for those of us who aren't associated with bureaus, like how do we best like get on their radar? How do we find paid speaking events?
Well, I think that it's a fundamental shift in the way you approach it. There is statistically, and I've done by now thousands of hours of research this year on this. So what I tell you it's going to be shocking and disappointing, but the conversion rate specifically for speaking events is between 2% and negative 0.03%. And that is statistically, it's actually not negative. It's like, or down to 0.03%. And those are the statistics I've found. 2% is the highest I found anywhere. Reaching out is not effective. You're going to find bookings in one of three ways, and this is what we spend an entire day on at Bookable Speakers on the weekend. But I'll make it as concise as possible. Bookability, visibility, referability. Bookability is everything that I have in my book. It's everything from a great video, great website, great headshot, great one sheet, bio, very clear headline. What I showed you right here with the headline is anyway, the headline is like who you are. I'll stop sharing now. Who you are, why you're special, your obvious advantage, and what you deliver to audiences. So you've got to have all that for the bookability. The visibility is everything that you're going to be found for online. Mm-hmm. So there's the Google rule 7-11-4 that you before anyone buys you, there's 7 hours. They have to have 7 hours of interaction with you over 11 different times over 4 different touch points. So what you're looking at is the 4 touch points. When you Google your name, this is what I spent the morning doing for my speakers on my roster, was figuring out where their bookability output was. Bookability, like their kind of their to-do list, to improve their visibility output. Mm-hmm. So where are they? So I Googled their name, and the top few things that pop up, a lot of times it's Wikipedia, but that's a hard one. You can't do that yourself. Someone else has to do that. And this is way beyond my skill set. I was actually looking at it on AI this morning. Top 4 things would be LinkedIn. If you're active on LinkedIn, you got to do it and do it right. If you're active on Instagram is a big one, YouTube, and then, actually it is bureau sites can be really good for you as well. So if you are listed on any bureaus, that's good. So that's visibility. And then referability is how good you are on stage. How many people book you? Like how does your speech convert? Is it you just go up and you speak once and there's like no, spin-off from it. So you got to have spin-off from it. Mm-hmm. So those are the 3 biggies.
That's so good. So I think a lot of us have been in this camp too, and I think some people swear by cold outreach, that sort of thing. I think most of us are like want to tear our hair out, or we've quit completely, trying to figure that out. So what is there still a place for cold outreach, or is it really, man, just be great on stage, get referrals, build a network, be visible? Where does cold outreach, if anywhere, fit into this model?
I'll tell you, I don't care what other people say. It doesn't work. It just, and I've been saying this for over 16, 17 years. Since the dawn of SEO, planners go to what they know. And they go to each other, and they go to Google, and now they go to AI. If you reach out to them, they don't want to hear from you. So you think to yourself, well, where are my bookings? Speak for free. Speak for free everywhere and kill it. And that's where your bookings are. And plus you get reps. Where do you speak for free? Fill out RFPs on association websites. And if you're the best top rated speaker at that event, they're gonna promote you to their other associations, state associations, or what have you in their network, and they're gonna want you to speak on the big stage. So speak for free everywhere you can so you can get referred. And if your speech isn't converting, hire a speech coach. Mm-hmm. You have to be amazing on stage. They're not buying widgets. They're buying transformation. And if they go through your presentation and they're not transformed, then they're not going to refer you. And it's like over 85% of all bookings come from referral now. It used to be in 2013, it was 71%. Now it's over 85% because we're in a trust recession. So you can cold outreach all you want. It's going to get deleted.
That's so good. And some of that obviously is the spin-off business from the events that you're talking about directly. Some of it is the more and more I've talked to event planners, the more I've realized they all have shared Google Docs, or they have, different platforms that they're using, Discord or whatever, where if they have a good speaker, they tell the other 50 associations in the States that here was a great speaker. And so, that is tough.
Yeah, exactly right.
So if it's bookability, visibility, and referability, and cold outreach isn't the answer. And for those of us who are kind of in the beginning stages of, I don't know, I haven't had any paid any paid talks. I'm starting to do some free talks or whatever. Is there anything else that we can do? It's getting our website in a good place. It's like, what are the other things that you'd say, here's the lowest hanging fruit, or the things that we should be thinking about besides, try to get free events and make sure that our marketing collateral's in order. Is there anything else that we're missing?
Nope.
Okay.
That's it. I mean, if those things are right, you will build bookings. You
Hmm.
make yourself bookable, visible, referable, and you get a killer presentation under the referability pillar. You can't lose, but you're going to have to speak for free for a while. I mean, as much as possible.
Hmm.
Speaker showcases, that's a great question. Hold on. Someone said, what are the
Yeah. Jen
stats?
said, where do speaker showcases fit into this mix of getting booked, unless these are also invitation only? And let me quick before you answer that question, Jen is a speech coach, so or speaker coach, and so when you talk about needing a speaker coach in the group, Jen is one. But yeah, go ahead, Krista.
That's okay. I'm answering. Someone said specifically your claim about increasing 6x. That's a Gallup poll research study specifically. So I just want to make sure that that's not, I didn't pull any of those numbers out of my brain, by the way. How would you follow up by email to secure gigs? Do you check in, circle back? Okay, so someone just said, I'm going to, Catherine, I'm going to look at that in a second, but this one, the speaker showcases are good. They're invitation only. I don't know that they're invitation only. I know that you've done Angela Goebels at Midwest, Steve, right?
Yeah, I've done three different ones, and those three were all invitation. They weren't open to the public.
But you can submit your information to them, can't you?
I can, yeah. I mean, there are bureaus that I was listed with already, and so they chose me to be one of their showcase speakers. They didn't. None of those three did they like put a call out for, hey, who wants to do this? They did invite me, and then I was able
Right.
to do it.
Yeah, I think probably I mean, I do think they're open. Like if they see someone who's got an amazing website video and you're like someone that they haven't heard before, they're going to go, have I not heard of this person? And they'll see the potential there. So I don't think showcases are a terrible idea for someone who's not listed on the website. So I do think that that's a possibility for sure. I think showcases are a possibility. Now, so Jen, what's your experience with showcase stuff? Because it sounds like because Jen, are you the speech coach in the bunch?
You got it, Krista. And we've spoken before too. So
Yeah,
thanks for
we
the
have.
question. Yeah, I haven't participated in one. That's why I was curious because I'm not with a bureau in my information, or what I thought was true was that it was only people within a bureau are invited to participate, which is what Steve kind of mentioned just now. So because I'm not part of a bureau, I never participated in one. So I was like, oh, okay, that seems like a good, if 85% of speaking is booked within these rooms, there must be other ways to get within the rooms.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question too, just to clean up the language. So when you say with a bureau, what's your perception of being with a bureau?
Listed on their site and represented by them.
Okay. So bureaus, unless they're an exclusive bureau, so exclusive bureaus will say that you're represented by them. If a bureau lists you, you're someone that they want to have on their website. So it's kind of like a visibility thing, kind of like, well, let's put Jen on our website. She might come in handy one day, or someone might find her. The more momentum you get to, Jen, like the more bureaus will find it a good idea to put you on their website, but every bureau is different too. So, Kepler probably won't list you on their website because they just have such a robust roster. Same with leading authorities, Washington Speakers Bureau. They have a really robust roster of exclusive speakers. But someone like, let's say, well, Angela Goebel with Midwest Speakers Bureau, she might be more open to it. Maybe even Powell Cone, or PK speakers is what they're called now. Yeah, because they'll just kind of list anybody from anywhere. Maybe Kobe Fleck with Crown Speakers, they might be more open to it as well. So that's kind of a nuance that I thought that was what teachers call a teachable moment.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I do think if you have an opportunity to do showcase, do it. I mean, I booked a lot of stuff out of those. So yeah, whether they're open or not, maybe that's an opportunity. Maybe it's the foot in to actually introduce yourself to them. Nationally speaking, if you're in Minnesota with
Right.
Holly Zelensky, she also does a showcase. So that's another option there.
Sweet. Yeah, that's
Um,
good.
and and one of the things I have thought about is, and I've talked to a couple of you here, is like maybe we do an ASC showcase at some point, right? Where we actually just screw it. If we can't get with the bureau, let's just do one ourselves and let's bring in event planners and figure that out. So it's part of an ongoing conversation that we're having here.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Catherine also asked, how would you follow up via email to secure gigs? Do you check in? Do you circle back? Like, so I know you're not a big fan of the cold outreach, but if you're doing cold outreach, what would you recommend for that, for follow-ups?
I would say just kind of the normal process, not to be a nuisance, but also, you know, be diligent, respectful. If you Now, I know speakers insist on reaching out to people because it makes you feel like you're doing something hard. I don't know why speakers still do it if it doesn't convert. But when you do, you have to make it very, very, very specific. So do like use AI to find that event planner, what events they're actually holding. Don't contact them in the middle of an event, because you're going to get their out of office reply and they're going to ignore you anyway. So find out if they're in the middle of an event. Look at their previous events and say, this I see that your focus as an organization, this comes from the meeting planner panel the other day. Your focus as an organization in 2026 is this and this and this and this and this. Here's where I think the content that I present would be a good complement to your organization. Um, Not, hi, my name is Steve. I am this, I am that, I am this. Delete. Like
Mhm.
I get those kind of messages all day, every day, and I can't answer them. Neither can planners, because it has to do with you, not me. I've got enough problems. I can't take on it. Speakers bureaus can't take, or pardon me, speaking as meeting planners can't take on speakers as well. Here's something that here's someone that I can help. You need to solve their problem, and they will listen to you.
Yep. And I would, yeah, like to reiterate what you're saying there too, do your homework. I think if you're going to do outreach, I think there's way more value in, doing one outreach instead of 20. If you spend that time you'd spend doing 20 actually researching the organization, finding if it's a good fit, seeing who their past speakers were, understanding their theme, and actually exactly solving the problem that they have versus just saying, "Hey, look at me, I'm amazing." I mean, yeah, we're all amazing, right? And so are the other 300 people that are emailing them that day, and it's
Yeah,
just a numbers game. You can't do it.
yeah, exactly.
So Kristen, talk about like, okay, so there's the business side of it. We're growing the business. Maybe talk about some of the characteristics that you've seen in speakers that are either they're blowing up or they're creating a good business for themselves. Maybe the characteristics of them both off stage and on stage. Like what are they doing differently? Are they just that good of speaker? Are they just that good at solving a problem? Are there other things like what can we do to increase our game on and off stage at an event that's going to make us more bookable, to use your language, it's going to make us more referable. Like what can we do to do that?
Um, I think anything that would build a relationship are the things that you would do, when you're easy to work with on and off the stage, when you're the same person on and off the stage, when you solve problems, you don't create problems for anybody planning the event. And that event isn't about you. That event is about them. And so the clients that feel like you are there to serve yourself are not going to tell their friends that you wowed them. I like the speakers who come in early and stay late. Go to the sessions prior and take notes and integrate those notes into the presentation, that go to the dinner and make strategic alliances with the people, have a meeting before the presentation with the president or the CEO of the organization, and really make a love connection with them. And to make it all about them, and I often say the standing ovation isn't for the speaker, it's for the person who hired them. Because that I actually heard a story at this event from one of these meeting planners that the speaker screwed up on stage colossally, and the CEO walked from the back of the room right to backstage, walked straight up to the meeting planner and fired her during the
Oh,
presentation. Yeah, it's that. I mean, speakers hold 5% of the budget, which is more than dessert. But a meeting planner never lost their job over dessert.
mm,
So a speaker has to make the event planner look good. That whole committee of 4 or 5 people, they all got to feel good about that choice. Remember that you're being hired for a job, and find out what the job description is before you go. and make sure that you're off the charts, A plus, 10 out of 10 on all of those things. And that's where a big part of referability comes from, is this, I'm saying, oh my gosh, he or she was so easy to work with. They stayed late for our attendees. Our attendees couldn't stop talking about them. Here are the 3 things I learned from them. The best compliment you can get is, I forget their name, but I remember this quote. Now, yeah. So all of those things and 1,000 more.
Yeah, and I would reiterate all that stuff too. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've gotten invited back to companies, I think solely because I stuck around and played cornhole with people,
Yeah.
or I went down and I toured their plants the week beforehand, or I got on a call with a couple of people and just kind of find out more information in advance. Like, yeah, you have the gig. You're going to get the gig. You're going to do the talk. You're going to get paid, but you want to get referred. You want to get invited back. I think those are the things that are incredibly sticky with people
Yeah.
for sure. Let me ask you this. I got a couple more questions. I see there's more in the chat. Let me ask a couple more. We'll get to those. But um, is it still video? Like, okay, so what are the most important assets that we can spend time? You know, we have to prioritize. It's hard to do everything. Yes, it's all important, but you got the video, you've got the one sheet, you got business cards, you got the website, you got maybe a catalog, maybe you've got I don't know, different things. Like what are, if we had to prioritize, what are the assets that we need to pay the most attention to?
Video is always at the top of the list. It always will be. Again, we're in a trust recession, and that's something I picked up from Rory Vaden. All of a sudden it disappeared from my head. Rory Vaden, just from a post he put up on LinkedIn. So, digital assets are the most important. I know from Sean Kanungo, who is a really popular and busy speaker in Canada, is that having a library of content is critical. So it is not just the one video, it's a whole library of content. Mel Robbins started on my roster, and people a lot of times ask, what did she do differently than other speakers? And what she did in 2014, 15, is she hired someone to go on the road with her and document everything she did. And it made her look so large market from the jump that people couldn't ignore her. So she did that very well. Now, I'll say this, and it's a hill I'm willing to die on. If Mel Robbins launched today with that same strategy, she'd get lost because everyone's doing it. So what everybody has to do is that, but as much as possible. So again, your visibility when you Google yourself, you got to know what people are finding, because again, 7 hours of interaction, 11 different times, 4 different touch points. They are digging way deeper than they ever did. So your speaking reel is critical, but it's not enough.
That's good. So if we let's switching gears. If we had 5 hours a week to spend on networking, however you want to define networking, who should we be networking with? Is it speakers? Is it trying to get into MPI and with event planners? Is it people in our industry at different things? Is it like where would you suggest networking?
I would spend probably one day while networking. If you have 5 hours a week, I would spend those all on LinkedIn for sure. Find the people that you respect, follow them, read their content, find out LinkedIn best practices. LinkedIn is the most powerful tool that you have at your fingertips for free. So if you insist, I would abandon all cold outreach and go to LinkedIn and learn and connect. That's it. Find out the LinkedIn best practices and to the minute algorithms. Again, at this event, there was a speaker. Look up Richard Bliss and follow him. He was actually at the event. He presented a session on LinkedIn. And he gave best practices that he had to change his slides the night before because they changed that day. So stay as frosty as you can on LinkedIn for sure. That's where I would put my 5 hours a week, is networking on LinkedIn. And
I've mentioned Richard Bliss in this group before too. Actually, I'm on his text thing. He sends these texts out whenever there's like an algorithm change, whenever there's a whatever. So if you have trouble finding him, let me know and we can connect you there. I don't know if you have to be an NSA member to be on his list or whatever, but he's kind of the go-to person. He's taught me so much about, because it's such a different algorithm than other social media posts or platforms, and so that's awesome. So when you talk about LinkedIn, Christa, like who are we networking with? Is it other speakers? Is it event planners, or is it like people in our industry that are working at companies we'd love to speak at? Like maybe you'll say yes, 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 but like who are we trying to network with?
I would let's go all the way back here. So let's just say you're an emerging speaker and you don't have a ton of really relevant content or depth or precision to your LinkedIn profile. You've got to get that right first. And I would just start networking with speakers at that point, because LinkedIn is going to reward focus and topic. So if you network with other speakers first, speakers you respect, speaker experts, follow Rory Vaden, follow Gary Vaynerchuk, follow Richard Bliss, follow me if you want, or connect with me. Anybody that you see who is dialed into the speaking industry, so that LinkedIn associates you with the speaking industry, because that's where you're going to start popping up in algorithms. Follow, of course, and I would actually follow not just speakers bureaus, because that's all fine and well and good, but they're busy too. Some of them don't have dedicated social media people that are pumping out content. But what I would say is follow Skift meetings. I would follow MPI, PCMA, ASAE, follow all the major associations, Events Industry Council. Get in the groups. It's like find a speaker, need a speaker, get in all those groups and start reading the conversation. And it'll help you determine what's in the water right now. And you can be tailoring your posts to address those problems and get deeper and deeper in the algorithms. Now, if you do all that already and you want to reach out, then I think it's appropriate to reach out to people in your niche. So if there's a nurse here in the group or a healthcare practitioner, reach out to the American Nursing Association, or not reach out, but follow the American Nursing Association, or all the healthcare professionals. Like, get in your niche. Like if you're a dentist, dental, or if you're specialized in fixing transmissions, get in with the automotive people. I would niche down with that too, so that LinkedIn recognizes what niche you're in too. So I would say be really strategic. And I have to go through and clean up some of the debris from over the years. I got pretty good. Like I'm not accepting everybody, but in my network of followers, I have to get rid of the people that aren't related to my industry, because it's confusing the algorithm. So it'll show your connections too.
And if for those of you who weren't here, we had a LinkedIn expert, Marilyn August, did some work last time. So if you can't find the link to that video, let me know, and she did a little bit of a deep dive into some of that as well. I always have more questions. You guys know that I got a billion questions, but I don't want to monopolize all the time, just some of the time. I see Jen's got a question there. Jen, do you want me to read that, or do you want to just come off mute and go ahead and ask that? And then whoever else will just either put it in the chat or raise your hand, and we'll do it that way.
Yeah, I can come off mute. Thank
Cool.
you. And sorry, I've got a bunch of questions, as you can tell. I was prepared. So you mentioned, Krista, that the decision-making committee has increased from maybe 2 or 3 to like 4 or 5 people. So who are those additional people, and how should we make smarter research before we get into those meetings with these folks?
Girl, it's so hard. I mean, it's we have 5 generations in the workforce right now, and I'm close to a speaker. She's $100,000 speaker, and she shared with me that she hired the best lead gen company on the planet that has some of the best results. They assured her, by no means can we not do this, and they got to the end of this really expensive SEO thing with her, and lead gen, not just SEO, but like lead gen, outreach, and they're like, it's too fragmented. That your industry is too fragmented. It's everybody from the intern they hired from the summer looking for the speaker to the CEO of a major corporation. So I have found, and that answered a lot of questions for me, because Jen, I've found that even when I joined MPI last year thinking, I'm always, what am I missing? What am I missing? I'm going to get into this and I'm going to be a lead. I spoke at MPI this year, okay, during the education day. Nothing. They're all over the place. They're either hotel vendors or they plan meetings that don't have speakers. There's just a small fraction of these people that are actually in charge of booking the speakers. So I know that's a non-answer, but instead of beating your head against the wall and trying to find the person who books speakers, in 1997, I had an MPI catalog that I started with. Do you want to know something? My 10 years at the Bureau, the great majority of all of my planners started, or my clients started with the letter G. You want to know why? Because I reached into the middle of the MPI catalog and I opened it, and it was open to G. And I started dialing for dollars at G. And so that was how I got, because there was a list of organizations with a phone number in their planner. And that's how I started. And it was like the Georgia Association of this. And all. So it's just not that way anymore. It's super, super fragmented. So I know that's probably not the answer you want to hear, but that's the reality of where we are in 2025, 2026.
Okay. Yeah, it's not the answer I wanted to hear for sure, but I get it. You know, we don't always have the answers.
Yeah. Well, that is the answer. Sorry. Yeah, you're welcome to try. I mean, there are associations that you can actually Google, find out who the speaker was, Google a speaker's name, search for it on AI, see where they spoke last year, and then sometimes they'll have, this is outdated information though too. This is the way I operated 15 years ago, where they have the association, like, oh, call so-and-so with member services at this phone number. Well, it's not that way anymore, because they got smart. They're like, oh my God, all these people are emailing me. Do not put me on the website. So that's, again, outdated. So I promise you'll be the third or fourth to know when I figure it out. But right now, it's not obvious.
Thank you.
I think I know I've personally done, tried the outreach thing, and at one point for 2 months I hired a couple of overseas VAs to just like do this stuff and just crank, just like I'm going to give this a shot. And I think I got one free gig out of all of that effort. So
Right. Right.
but some people swear by it. I think the only outreach success I've had is when it's like any adjacent events to what you've just done. So if I go speak to whatever, so the West Virginia school nurses, and it goes well, then it's like, okay, I'm going to reach out to some other school nurse associations and say, hey, I just spoke with the West Virginia school nurses. Here's the contact info. I'd love to, bring the message to you. That has had some marginal success. But that's the only time where I feel like cold outreach has worked for me. But I know some people really swear by it. So.
That's great. That's a great tie-in, because it is niching down. I love that.
Christa, can you mention those lists? I know you went through them fast. I caught skipped meetings, PMCA, ASAE, some of the other organizations that you'd recommend that we follow on LinkedIn.
Yeah, so it's PCMA, which is Professional Convention Managers Association, MPI, which is Meeting Professionals International, skipped meetings. I know Jen just dropped in the chat. ASAE is the Association Society, the American Society for Association Executives.
Yep.
This is a little bit of brain work here.
It is, yeah.
And it'll start popping up actually suggested, once you get there. So yeah, you can just follow those. I would follow, of course, NSA. Follow NSA and listen to as many podcasts as you can, because you'll pick up a lot of information on those, and you'll know who the players are in the industry. Maybe not from NSA, but whoever NSA interviews, they're going to interview top influencers in the industry. On the podcast. But yeah, that's just some. LinkedIn will make suggestions. If you just punch those in, you'll get the rest.
If LinkedIn recommends people to follow, do we follow them blindly? Do we pick and choose? Like, because it might recommend, speaker reps for bureaus. It might recommend these, that, and the other. Like, it's so once it recognizes we're in the speaker industry and starts recommending people, like, should we just follow like speaker reps that we don't know, or should we be more discerning on that?
I think following is a really nice idea. In fact, it means a lot to me when someone's following me and doesn't immediately ask to connect, you know?
That's when I unfollowed them, when they request to follow me, and then I immediately get like a message that says, hey, you're interested in this? Like, okay, unfollow, I guess. Yeah,
right. Yeah, it's I know there's some discernment there. The only time that I block somebody, the only time is when I connect with them. If we have 10 or more people in common, or maybe 20, I'll look who it is. And if it's someone, now I've gotten more discerning, because Richard Bliss saying, like, you've got to keep to your network, right? Like, you got to stick to your sweet spot here. But 21 people, I'll look at the people we have connected, and I'm like, they're no, like none of these people are really like, they're barely industry adjacent. And so, I won't do that. But if I do connect with someone and they immediately start like popping this to the top of your inbox and, have you had a chance to think about my proposal, I will immediately block them, because I don't have time. I don't have time for that. And I also don't, like, my heart is way too soft. And I just go, you make me feel bad every time I open my inbox. So I'm going to have to block you.
Yep. Give it a second here before I ask my next question. Anybody have a question you want to ask? It's a quiet group today. One of the world's foremost experts on speaking is in your presence. I'm trying to guilt people. It doesn't work. All right.
Oh no, it's fine. Maybe I told everything.
Well, they know that I've got a million questions, so
Well, I usually only do an hour, so you guys have. I
Yeah.
just spit it out as fast as I can.
No, this is great.
All right, I have a question.
Maybe I shouldn't have cut you off, I guess. Sorry. Who was it that had the question? Go ahead.
Hi, Steve. It's Bonnie.
Hey, Bonnie.
First of all, this is amazing. Thank you, Christa. My question is what you were saying about not accepting all the invitations or blocking people. I totally get the salesy ones and the annoying. I also see, like, oh my God, you have 20,000 people. Isn't it also about building the network? How do you draw that line between volume and looking popular and having the platform versus being more discerning, as you were saying?
I would just say it's very simple: quality over quantity now. And this is new information for me from Richard Bliss, but you always get a little bit of number envy when people have so many followers or that they have so many connections or whatever. But if they're not high quality connections, it muddies the water. So really 2026, if I could give you one word for everything, it's clarity. You have to be so clear so that the robots know who you are, the internet knows who you are, clients know who you are, everybody needs to know who you are. So just clarity of purpose, clarity of audience, clarity of message, clarity.
I love that.
Makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So let me ask you, you haven't asked for this, but I'm going to give you the opportunity to talk about Bookable Speakers and the community and the value of that sort of thing too. But before we get to that, can you just talk generally about speaker communities? Whether this group or just, speakers connecting with other people offline or in small groups or masterminds or in broad groups or NSA chapters or whatever it might be. Where do you fall on the value of that? And if there is value there, why?
Fundamentally, we're more disconnected than we ever have been. And I've been saying this has been my battle cry for years, is that as soon as social media came around, we replaced everybody with their avatars. And so I think a lot of people would just much prefer to stay home. COVID really didn't do us any favors with that, because a lot of us just stayed home. And it made the introverts very comfortable staying home. So I think that, and in general, I think people have lost the skill to connect in really valuable ways, but they've never lost the hunger for it, because it's innate in us. It's something we're born with, was that need for community and connection. So organically out of that, these kind of little mini tribes are popping up everywhere. Impact 11 was a big one for that. And that was the biggest thing for the speakers that were part of it that went away, was the community. So it's going to pop up in different ways. I know with Bookable Speakers that my main goal is education and networking for established speakers or for serious speakers. And that's the one thing that people go away with. Like we have our events now, we have them in giant Airbnbs, believe it or not, for the February one. We're looking at so crazy, renting out a 51-room hotel that is on Airbnb in Phoenix. It's like renting out the whole thing. It's so bonkers. So, but it's for some reason you can do that. I don't know, but we'll have it all to ourselves to build our little community, and people say they want to come back. Now, if we have 4 different masterminds, because we do 4 events a year, if we have 4 different pods, have one in Dallas, have one in Phoenix, have one in Denver or wherever, and maybe have a big one at the end of the year. I don't know. It might just be like the little Dallas community where we get together, but I can't tell you how important community is with speakers. And I'd love, and see what Bookable does is it breaks down the barriers between experts and the speakers, because the second you have open conversation between the two groups, that's when you really get somewhere and you can figure things out together.
Mm-hmm. Love that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions? Okay. All right.
Steve,
So,
can I interject
of
quickly?
course, yeah, please.
Okay, Krista, and the formula is visibility as one of the main things for us to build up and always grow upon. What are some visibility don'ts?
Oh, great. Thank you. That is a very good question. And I'm always happy to talk about don'ts. I would say the biggies, of course, are the obvious ones. Well, the umbrella over that, I would say, is anything that is going to cannibalize your brand, just stay away from it. Anything that lends static to your brand. So if you are something and if you're niching down, don't um, don't confuse your audience. Don't confuse your audience unless you are a politician. Don't confuse your audience with politics. Unless you are a professional musician, don't confuse your audience with your favorite musicians. You have to stay on brand with your visibility and make it as clear as possible for your headline. I onboarded a speaker about 6 months ago, David Atkins, and he's a 9/11 first responder, ground zero 9/11 first responder, NYPD police officer, and the developer of the framework, One Decision Away. And it was actually crazy how long it took me to get that, because I needed him to be those things and those things only. And he said, but I run Ironman. I'm like, I don't care. It doesn't support your brand. Good for you. It shows you can put it in your presentation if you want, but we can't make it part of your brand, because then all of a sudden you're a police officer and an athlete. And people are like, well, which one is he? So with your visibility, pick a lane and stick to it. That is the biggest thing I can tell you. Does that answer your question, Jen?
It does, and it probably drives a knife into some people's hearts, these multi-passionate folks who are like, I do all of the things, and I'm so good at all of the things.
Yeah. Well, it's true. I mean, it is really hard for me to, again, I have to really bite down on something when I say I'm a speaker expert, because I'm like, I'm a lot more than that, but that's what my lane is, because that's what my 30 years of experience, my obvious advantage skill is. You can't and in my presentation, I'll talk about all the other stuff, but as far as how the world views me, now I'll just give you a little cultural reference here. So I come from Canada, where you're allowed to be a few different good things, because it's just a different ethos. But America has a very individualistic culture. It just is the way it is. And, when I was actually trying to get my green card, it took me 20 years to get my green card, 20 years of living here, because I was really good at music, I was really good at comedy, and I was really good at speakers. And they couldn't figure me out. Which one is it? I'm like, all of them. And to my own detriment, I tried to come in on all three, and they just kept saying, we don't know what you are. And so finally I hired a new lawyer, and he's like, you're good at speakers, and that's it. The other stuff needs to disappear. And that's the way people think. That's the way the government thinks. I mean, it's painful, but you just got to be one thing.
Well, let's do we'll do Nancy and then Sherry.
Okay, thanks. Your comments are really interesting. So I'm a wardrobe consultant, and I work with individual clients, and then I have my speaking lane as well. And so as I'm thinking about, you're talking about, there's sort of the two facets of visibility, of really, of being really niche down for that. I mean, my speaking is around my wardrobe consulting. I mean, I'm talking, it's all the same content, but in terms of my LinkedIn stuff, it's like I'm following a lot of professional women, trying to connect with a lot of professional women in terms of growing relationships as clients. But then there's also the speaking piece, but then also for the visibility stuff in terms of my website, I have a speaking page and then I have, other things. But how do you kind of toggle those two things? Because I'm not intending to stop serving individual clients, but I feel like I do have to market for both. And so what are your thoughts on that?
So just to make sure I'm answering the right question. So you're a speaker and a coach, right?
Yeah,
Or a
yes,
consultant, speaker and
a
consultant.
consultant. Yeah.
Okay, fine, sure. So I'll tell you my experience with that is coaching or consulting will come out of your speaking, but speaking will not come out of your coaching and consulting. So,
Right.
so I would say, and this is my advice and not just my advice, it's the advice of the experts. We just had this question at the last Bookable. You're a speaker and you can have coaching on a drop down, maybe a less visible drop down that it's there. But if you're a speaker and a coach, it immediately confuses your website visitor. They want you to be one thing, and that one thing would be speaking, and you'll get consulting out of it. And I would say that they'll go to your website and see that you're an expert, because experts speak. And if they want to hire you as a coach or consultant, they'll find you. That's what I'd say.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Sherry.
Thank you, Christopher, for being here. How much would you recommend altering your talk based upon requests that you receive, based upon whomever it is that you're talking about or talking to at an event?
I love your last name, Zevenbergen. It's very
Well, thank you.
it's very authoritative. I like it.
Had it my whole life.
Yeah, right.
Actually, no, I
No,
haven't. Kraus was a lot easier.
And I was gonna say, I was like, oh, I know, I inherited Haberstock. Yeah. So wait, what was the question? Wait. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I really did get distracted. I need
No, that's right. Zevenbergen will throw you. Go ahead.
Like such a high value Scrabble letter. I was getting jealous when people so how much should you alter your talk? I think it's fine to alter it as much as you want, as much as they want. I think it will eventually cannibalize, there's that word again, but it won't be as optimal as far as delivery. So I would keep the skeleton as much the same as possible and just change some of the content points. Keep the title the same because you want it the same in every single brochure that's out there online, so they know you as that thing. Even if it's like, for me, like the obvious advantage, finding skills for your team or whatever it is, whatever they want to put on the back end, mine's the obvious advantage at the front end. But, I've customized it for rental organizations, for parks and rec groups, for women's groups, for meeting planners. But it always starts with the obvious advantage. And then the content, and it's not good. I'm not recommending this. I am not a speech coach, but I've rewritten it for every group. I don't recommend that.
Okay. So my audience is corporate high achievers.
Okay.
And I talk to various industries, to various groups, and sometimes they want me to talk more about imposter syndrome or communication or, I don't know, teamwork. And so I'll just add or kind of reduce some of my content based on that because it all,
of course,
works together.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of tweak the name a little bit based upon, okay. All right. So it's not like I'm just like all of a sudden an emotional intelligence speaker. It's just, well, I'm going to talk more about that because it all blends together. Okay.
And I don't know where you are in your career, but I would say until you get to a point where you're turning down dates because you have too many on your calendar, you're going to do whatever you need to do. So obviously don't speak outside of your skill set. I'm definitely not, but it sounds like you're just drawing from all of your different experiences and weaving the through line with your expertise. I think that's a beautiful customization of a presentation, and everybody should be doing that. But as far as forward-facing stuff, make sure that your headline and your tag and your bio is exactly the same. AI loves consistency. SEO loves consistency.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I love the idea of customizing, and Christa, I love what you said there because you're always so good at like saying the truth of here's the reality of the speaking business. Because we hear these high dollar speakers and it's always like, don't speak for free, and it's like, don't ever customize your stuff, and it's like, but the reality is the way they got there was pretty much doing free talks and customizing.
Yeah, it's
Like that's how they
okay.
got there. It's what it
Yeah, well,
takes.
it's like the corporate CEO. I remember one CEO came into the bureau one time. He was like this super high level guy. I don't even remember, these people that come in. And he's like, I don't even have a phone. I have some, and we're looking at each other like, like, how nice for you. Like, what we can't, and he's giving us the advice that we should just not have a phone, that we should, and I'm like, okay, listen, okay, all of us are not billionaires, first of all.
We should all have assistants to do that.
Yeah,
right?
we should all have assistants. Yes, good advice, good advice. But yeah, no, precisely. You're exactly right.
And I think also, Sherry, part of that, I think becoming a master in how do you, if you don't want to customize everything, becoming a master in how do you retrofit what it is that you do offer into what they actually want. Because sometimes you can do that. They say, hey, we want a talk about courage, and you say, well, you talk about team building. I can't really do that. But then you become a master at, well, here's the central part of courage is positive teams or whatever it is. We kind of become these masters of convincing them that what we do offer without having to customize the whole thing or rewrite the whole talk is exactly what they need.
Perfect. So what I've been saying lately is, well, here's my framework, and I just build or reduce my content around that based upon the audience.
I love it.
And I'm not lying. But sometimes I feel like, well, am I being too flexible? So that's all good to hear.
That's a you question. I have a speaker that from the start, I've been repping him 13 years. And when he started, he said, well, I customize for every client, just like you're saying. And I'm like, well, that's not going to last forever. Like, I'm like, that's a lot of work. Oh no, look at him go. For like 13 years later, 40% of every presentation is totally bespoke because he's a futurist, a tech guy, an AI guy. Yeah. He loves this work. Like, he digs into organizations and the history of things and why they work and the way they do. So he actually loves it, and clients freaking love it too, of course. So, unless you're Byron Reese, I would not say do not try this at home. But he totally digs it. So it's part of the joy of speaking for him. So I just, it's a win for everybody.
And if you end up doing, creating a new talk for something, then it becomes a new talk that you can put in your suite of talks. Like, that's the beauty. If it's different enough, then it's like, okay, well, now here's a new talk that I offer.
Yep, exactly. Yep, that's right.
And one of the things we talked about too is, this whole, how do we niche down? How do we do all these things? We do all these things, but then we have to define our niche for clarity and the bucket that we're in and all those things. And the reality is, once people know you, like you, trust you, that whole thing, they're going to ask you if you can do other stuff. Like, I think that's just the reality. You say, here's what I do. And, oh man, what if I want them to know that I do that. Well, if they like you, or if you become referred to them, they'll reach out to you and say, hey, all your stuff's about team building, but can you talk about this? And you'll say yes. And then they'll pay you to do that.
That's an interesting situation to be in too, because you learn more about yourself by what people observe as what they can learn from you. So you see that and you're like, why do I keep getting asked for this? Like, maybe this is my obvious advantage, right? Like, it's kind of one of those things, like, don't ignore the obvious. Like, people keep asking me about this, but this is what I really want to speak on. You go, well, but I think you might get hired more for the thing that people want. So that's something to definitely take note of when it happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my situation now is, why do agricultural groups keep asking me to speak to them? I don't know, but it's working. So I don't know what my obvious advantage is there, but somehow that's working. So Christa, I guess kind of shifting gears a little bit, I guess we hear the word brand a lot, right? We have to develop our brand. And I don't want to give a leading question. So I'm just going to ask you, what does brand mean to you in that context? When people say we need to clarify, we need to identify our brand, what does that mean to you?
A brand is not what you think you are. It's what other people say you are. So it needs to be explainable. You can explain it to a 6-year-old, and a 6-year-old will understand it and be able to tell you what it is. That's what a brand is. It's who people think you are, not what you think you are, but who people say or think you are. So if Nike thinks that they are, well, what would you say? I mean, it's interesting. What would you say Nike is? Nike is, Nike's probably a bad example because they're everywhere. It's a bit too big. But anyway, you get the point. Like,
well, give me an example, like a couple speakers, whether it's you or other speakers that
Yeah,
like, how would you, what would be your definition of their brand? putting you on the spot.
So yeah, no. Well, I'm trying to think of something outside the industry first because for me
Sure.
that works better, but it's because it's super general. So let's just say, so okay, this one will work for me because I feel like I can sum it up easily. Like Petco. Petco is pet supplies, right?
Hmm.
And so that's where we go when we need pet supplies. But if they think that they are primarily a vet or a dog grooming place or they're a bunch of different things, then that's a problem because I'm never going there for dog grooming or vet services. I'm
Hmm.
going there for pet supplies. Um, like if Vespa makes watches, but I'm going there for a scooter. I'm going to Vespa for a scooter.
Hmm.
Yeah. So as far as a speaker goes, like what are people going to go to you for? People come to me for speaking information. So my brand, I have to be in a brand right now. So Christa Haberstock, the person, means more than just speaking. So I've got the book, I've got the pedigree, I've got the experience, the events, everything. But for me to diversify out of that for speaking, how do I do that and remain brand consistent? So as I'm even talking about it, like I probably need to figure out like who the best person in the speaking industry come speak to your group. Like there's got to be a tie in there somehow. So I'm wrestling with that right now too, to maintain brand consistency, but also broaden myself, like be able to push outside just the confines of the speaking industry into the industry as a whole. Does that help? Does that make any kind of sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think that's a question we hear all the time, and then I know sometimes you get into fonts and colors and websites and all that kind of stuff too, which feels like marketing. I don't know, the whole brand thing has always felt squishy to me. Like, what's your brand? And I don't know if I'm supposed to say, well, here's my fonts, or if I'm
Yeah.
supposed to say, well, here's my tagline, or like I don't know how to define that. Maybe it's not important, but it just feels like it feels important. I just don't know how to really think about brand. So kind of whoever I can ask, I'm always asking how do you define brand? And so what I'm hearing you say is it's how other people view you. That's your brand.
Yeah. And, if you want to talk about fonts, that's how, like, if I am my brand, it's how I dress, it's all the other thing that go into it. But all of that paints a picture of who I am. And a brand is who you are, period. And that's why the obvious advantage work is so important because if you don't know who you are, your brand is going to get muddled and nobody's going to know. There's going to be very unclear. So for me, fundamentally, the obvious advantage work is more important than anything a speaker does. And I love working with emerging speakers on it because we go so far so fast because they don't have a lot of preconceived notions
Mm.
on who they are yet. And so but unlearning the things that people think they are is very painful. It can be
Mm.
very, very painful. Yeah.
You talked about sort of, and I don't see any other hands up. If you want to chat, just unmute or raise your hand. So I mean, you talked a little bit about understanding who we are and all those things. That's the brand and all that sort of stuff. I think I'd still love your advice on this for I think for this group, for me, for others that'll be listening to this later. How do we really know who we are? And I know it's a bizarre sort of question. And the reason I say it is because we get into this field, and I think either we don't know who we are, what we want to say, what our message is to the world, or we are chasing success, meaning higher fees, more bookings, so much that we morph ourselves into being who we need to be in order to get
Right.
the stages, and then someday we kind of lose ourselves in that. And so I know you're a bookable therapist as well, but like what, because speakers all need therapists, but like, what's your advice on like, how do we really truly understand who we are, the voice we want to share to the world, the message we want to deliver with impact that's fully ourselves, where we're not doing what we should do or what we're supposed to do, but we're really truly authentic with ourselves in a way that we get booked. Like, how do we get there? Because it feels like that is the
Mm-hmm.
core of speakers that I see that are really doing it. Either they're pretending great or they're really there, but somehow they've arrived at this place where they know who they are, they're confident in who they are, they're confident in their message, they're delivering it, all their brand collateral aligns to it. But I feel like we build this collateral around something that's not really truly us, it's not our obvious advantage or whatever it is. So it's a rambling question, but how do you suggest we get there and build on a strong foundation?
So in my research on the obvious advantage, I ran across, and I'm going to Google it here so I can give you really good details about it. There's something called the Joe Harry window.
Say
It was
it again.
developed.
What was it called?
Joe Harry window. I'm going to
Joe
send it
Harry.
to you in
Okay.
the chat. But the Joe Harry window, it's a technique designed to help people understand their relationship with themselves and others, and it's finding out who you are. So I'm reading this right from here because I know that it's two behavioral psychologists. I forget their last names, but it was created by psychologist Joseph Luft and Harrington Ingram. So it was Joe and Harry. That's why it's called the Joe Harry window, which I love. I think that's like very sophisticated.
I was trying to think of the brand of Joe Harry. What's the brand for Joe Harry? I was like, okay,
yeah, that's
I don't want
right.
to go there. Okay.
So the window is like, if you think of a window with 4 panes. So you've got your top right pane. It's the thing that everybody knows you for and you know you for. So that would be the obvious skill. So after I developed all my stuff for the obvious advantage, I actually found this and I'm like, well, would you look at that?
Cool.
Someone else had it and they've had it since the 60s. So it's very cool. And there's more research with the Joe Harry window is the one that I resonate most with. So top right is what you are known for and what you know yourself for. So that, for example, could be, let's just say Olympic athlete, or Kate, for me, speaking, or whatever it is. That's the one. The one over here on the obvious trait is the thing that other people know you for that you don't see in yourself. And that's when I tell people, you can't read the label from inside the jar. That's the obvious advantage. That's the hidden skill or the hidden trait that is most important in your speaking, because it's the undergirding to everything you've done and everything you have to say. So let's just say that your trait is because you were the middle child in the family, or let's say your trait came from being raised in a different country, or you are just always the peacemaker in the family, or always the popular one at school, or the least popular one, whatever it is. That trait came from all those things that aren't necessarily a skill, but it's what you don't really even know about yourself because it comes so naturally to you, but it's amazing to other people. That is where a speaker's biggest advantage, their obvious advantage, lies. It's what people consistently say. Like the things you want to listen for are, gosh, you are so good at that. You make that look so easy. I wish I was better at that. And you just blow it off. Usually, and you don't really notice it. You might say, yeah, I know. Like so when I was at the Speakers Bureau, I was, booking celebrities and so forth. So I had the opportunity to book Caroline Rhea, who is kind of a big celebrity in Canada. She was Sabrina the Teenage Witch. She was on The Biggest Loser. She was on TV. She's still on like Hollywood Squares and stuff, but she's from Canada. She's a comedian from Canada. I was in her green room, actually her hotel room, with her doing her hair. She was getting her hair and makeup done. I was just hanging out with her, having the whole, Canada talk and just whatever, because it wasn't time for her to go on yet. And she looks at me, she goes, "You're really funny." And I said, "I know."
I know.
Because I knew, I know. And that's when she said, so she goes, "Have you ever done stand-up?" And I went, no. And she said, "Would you like to?" And I'm like, I had never thought about it. She goes, "I'll tell you what, open for me next week in New York City. And I know better than to say no to opportunities like that." So I said yes. And so a week later, I was on stage in the Meatpacking District opening for Caroline Rhea at Comics Comedy Club. And it actually I did her opening Friday night set and the late night set. And they both went really well. And she said, "You did great." She said, "Open for me on my theater dates this tour." So I did.
Sweet.
So I actually toured with Caroline Rhea. I'd never done stand-up before in my life. And it was because I said yes to something that I knew that I was good at, but I just thought it was easy. I thought it was easy and other people thought it was amazing. And when I tell that story, people go, "What?" I'm like, "I don't know. I thought it was easy. Like, can't everyone do this?" But I did find out stand-up is really hard. Like, I've never been more nervous in my life, not even before my children were born. I was like, God, this is very, very scary. But it's something that most people would be like, "No, I would rather run in traffic in New York City than do that." But so that is a perfect example. It's kind of a crazy one, to be honest. But then there's the other panes of the window that are like, so you've got the one that's obvious to you and everybody, the one that's obvious to everybody but you. Then there's one down here that's obvious to you, but nobody else knows about it. So it might be something like, I'm weirdly good at folding towels. And so I would just think that that's probably one nobody needs to know about it, but I'm just really good at it. But now my husband knows.
I want a demonstration when you're done with this. I need to see
it
what
is
that
very
means,
cool.
because I don't know how you can be good at folding towels.
No, you don't even know. It's amazing. And so I'm really good at that. I'm also really good at making a basket with a piece of paper when I throw it. I don't know why. Like, it just always goes in. And if I miss, I'm shocked. So that's a weird thing too. But there's probably more in there that I know that people don't know. And then there's the one on the bottom, which is actually the potential window, which is like the one that you don't know and nobody else knows. And so if you're put in a position that you've never done before, you're like, I don't know if I can do this. And someone's like, I don't know if you can do it, give it a shot. And you can do it. It's like, oh, there was a totally hidden skill from you and everybody. So those are the 4 windows. Good old behavioral science to the rescue of my little theory that worked. And I do think that the obvious advantage and where speakers can figure out their brand is in that second window. It's in the first and second window. So it's the obvious skill and then the obvious trait behind that skill. That's my answer. And that, I don't think it gets to be a better answer than that.
I put a link in the chat. I don't know if it's the best link, but it's a link that describes that model. Well, that's great.
So you know that they call that second window blind spot, and I think that's where that phrase came from. So it's your blind spot. You just don't see something that you're great at. So I do think that speakers, if they can figure out their open window, the one everybody knows, and their blind spot, you're well on your way.
Yeah. So if we figure those things out, then how do we figure out what our message is with that? Then is it just,
well, it's what you have inside you. It's what your message. I'll answer that like this. Your message is what you've learned from your unique experience. The message that you have in you is what you've learned, because that you are uniquely qualified to do that. My pastor says your misery is your ministry. So look at your story and what you learned from your story, and that's what you lay out to the world, because you didn't go through that by accident. That opportunity is not in front of you. It's not random. It's intentional. It's in front of you as a choice to do something. When Caroline Ray said, open for me, I knew well enough by that point, this opportunity in front of me was there for a reason. And it's because I was uniquely gifted for that somehow. The opportunity wouldn't have been in front of me, I don't believe, if I couldn't already do it. That's what your message is the thing that only you uniquely can share.
What else do we have out there? What other questions or comments do we have from the group? If we're good, Chris, if you have more you want to share, you're welcome to. I reached the end of my question, which has literally never happened before. So
Well,
what else do we have? Any other questions? Any
fast learners, I guess.
They are fast learners, or they already know everything, right? They're all geniuses.
Yeah. Well, if they have any questions that they're too shy to share, they can always reach out to me. Well,
any final words, Christa, that you want to share? Or, there's still time if you guys want to jump into the question. But otherwise, Christa, I want to make sure I give you the final word to kind of share what, feel free to promote some of your stuff that you have going on or anything like that. I know you shake your head no, but or any final thoughts that you wish to leave with these ambitious speakers?
Well, to not be discouraged, this industry is more competitive than I've ever seen it. So just know what you're up against, but also know that I started with this, like your version of success needs to be yours and yours alone. Comparison's the thief of joy for a reason. So if you're looking around at Brene Brown or Mel Robbins and I'll never get there, probably not. Like there is a small fraction of a percent that will get there. And that doesn't mean that you can't have influence. I actually did the calculations a couple of years ago. So I go to a mega church here in Rockwall, and it's like, I think they pump through 7,000 people just from my campus every weekend. And I did the math with the speaker, and that math, you might be in front of 7,000 people a year. However, a pastor is in front of the 7,000 of mostly the same people. Speakers are in front of 7,000 different people. So I would say the average the average, busy speaker is in front of as many people as a pastor of a mega church. And that is massive, massive influence. So first of all, know your message and know why it matters. And second of all, work hard to get it out there, because if you're called to do it, you have to work hard to get it. And that could be the most important thing that you hear about speaking, that you have to push hard for success. But whatever success looks like to you is your choice. That's it.
I love that. Sherry does have a question, but thank you, Christa. That's fantastic. And I think that is it. Like it's this combination of this message, this influence, this impact, but it's a business and people aren't just waiting for us to knock on their door. We have to try to make it happen somehow. So that's a great reminder. Sherry.
Krista, when you mentioned Brene Brown and Mel Robbins, it made me think, when you think about each of them, what comes to mind? Because they do multiple things. They're not just speakers, right? So now I'm not saying, oh, hey, because I'm the same as Mel Robbins.
Oh, no. The word that came to my mind was lightning strike. I'm just like, no, I mean, nobody was asking for vulnerability, and Brene Brown got a gajillion people to see her TED Talk. And then everybody's like, I like that. Nobody is asking for vulnerability before that. And then all of a sudden it is. Mel Robbins got an amazing hook. I was with her when she did it. 5-second rule. She built her whole brand around it. Such clarity, right? Boom. Total clarity. Lightning strike, because she was a female speaker that just had, male energy and just got out there and took charge and captivated audiences and rocketed to the top. And now she's coasting on a pot, like not coasting, she's working hard, but she's at the top. So she's just keeping the momentum with a podcast and with her book and the Let Them and all that stuff. So I would say, you know what, I'm totally on this bandwagon, I guess, on this call for clarity, but we know exactly what they are, don't we? Like, we know exactly what these two people are. What are you known for? What is the thing you can exactly? And again, Rory Vaden, he says, what problem do you solve in one word? And I think that's a tough thing to do, but I think that's aspirational. So what problem do you solve in one word? That would be, so you asked me what they're known for. I would say I see them as super clear, and then solve your problem in one word.
Yeah. Okay. And I was thinking about Mel Robbins having written so many books at this point, because she was the 5-second rule, and now she's kind of known for Let Them. But I mean, clearly she's she's pretty into her career at this point. But to talk about all of those things and be known for all of those things would make it confusing. So it's, what you're saying is just kind of stay in your lane, talk about a thing, have clarity around that.
She was able to develop a persona through the 5-second rule, and she's stuck with that persona, which is really clear. Oprah, she's known for a lot of things, but we still know Oprah, like you picture Oprah, Right. Yeah. So I think once you get to a certain tipping point, you're not known for anything, you're known as the person. And that's, yeah, that's what Brene and Mel and Oprah and them, that's what they've done. You're known as the person. You're maybe not known for content. So I think there's a tipping point. Yeah.
Once people refer to you in just a single name, when you're just Christa, when you're just Sherry, when you don't need the last name anymore, when you're just Oprah or Brene or Mel.
I'm just Z. I'm just
No, I think you need to be Zevenbergen. I am calling you Zevenbergen forever.
Love it. Any other questions or comments? All right. Well, we'll get you the time back. Christa, seriously, thank you so much. I know you're swamped. I know you're just coming off Bookable. I know you whatever. So thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. I really do appreciate it.
I love pouring into speakers. This is my favorite thing. So I hope that it was of value. So just reach out to me. I hope you guys connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd love to stay connected, and just, go fight, win. If you're called to it, go hard at it.
I love it. All right. Thank you, Christa. Thank you, everybody else. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.